Jozi Talchi will start the answer round. For this question, what knowledge of Osage legislation do you bring to the position? If elected, please be specific.
Well, I have intelligence. I don't have a degree. I have the intelligence to do research, due diligence. And I also have the ability to talk to the people, go out and find out what they need and what they want, and make their will into law. And I have the ability to do that. If I need a lawyer, I get a lawyer. If I need an accountant, I get an accountant. I have no sense to know when it's time to do those things. So that's kind of thanks.
Can you repeat the question, please?
What knowledge of Osage legislation do you bring to the position if elected?
Well, I've been employed with the tribe for almost 2 years now, and as far as, I couldn't sit here and name all the legislation, of course. But I do have experience with working with Congress and going before Congress on my programs. So I mean, that question is, I think, pretty broad as far as the naming specific legislation. But I'm a Jozi. I think I'm smart. So if that counts for anything. But I have worked with the tribe. I have experience with federal government for 7 years. I do understand legislation, and I think that I bring a lot of experience to the table. But moving forward, like I said, I think that I just specific legislation. I don't have as much experience as those who've been on Congress, but they started from scratch as well. So, thank you.
Well, I wrote a lot of it, and I've worked with all of it for 6 years. But I will say that I didn't know how to be a legislator when I started this job. Any of these people can do this job. And it's just about persevering and being willing to learn, because that's really what's most important about the job, is doing your homework, learning about what's important, learning what is necessary, learning what the people want and need in the way of legislation. So anyone can do the job if they're willing to make the effort, study, research, go out, take the courses that teach you different things like how gaming works, what the housing authority is all about, what social services has to offer. If you learn and you're willing to learn about those things, and then sit down and get in the books and get on your computer and then write legislation and listen to people once you've written it, and it shows you you're going on the right path here, you need to steer this way, there, and take the time to make it right, then anyone can do the job. I believe I've done a good job doing that over the last 6 years, so I would ask you to allow me to do it for the next 4. Thank you.
When I started as a superintendent principal of a K-8 district in Northern California with all Native American children, I'd never been a superintendent principal before. I'd gone from teaching to working at the Office of Education. So as Shannon just said, I rolled up my sleeves and I learned how to be the best that I could be to meet the educational needs of those children. And it meant learning how to read a budget that was unfamiliar to me, because I'm managing a school district and managing money. Learning how to work with state and federal and Indian education laws. So I think that gives me background to, and I know within myself that I have the tenacity to not ever give up, but to stay focused and to do and to learn and to be able to implement what I think would best be needed.
As many of you may know, I'm an attorney, and I work under contract for 11 tribes throughout the state of Oklahoma, and many of the tribes that I serve are centered around the Ponca City area, and I also represent several around the Shawnee Oklahoma area. So I know a lot about legislation in general. I write a lot of it, I review a lot of it, I debate a lot of it, and I make recommendations to my clients, and my clients thankfully listen to me most of the time. In terms of what I know about Osage legislation, let me just say it's not a lot, because the Osage tribe, unlike some of the other tribes that I've mentioned, has never given me that chance. I have never been appointed to a board. I've never been offered any kind of contract, a legal position with the tribe. There's only been one occasion where I was even invited to participate in a round of bidding for an attorney contract. Most of these contracts are not advertised in the Oklahoma Bar Journal like they're supposed to be, at least for the federal programs they're supposed to be. So what I learned about Osage legislation is, I guess for that reason, because I'm not connected to the tribe. And so tribal members will call me and they will ask me for my opinions on particular pieces of legislation, and I will evaluate it, and we will go back and forth about what the benefits and disadvantages of that are. Some Osage Congress people have even called me in the past, not many. But a lot of the laws that are in place at the Osage Nation are carbon copies of laws that are in place at other tribes. The LLC Act, for instance, is almost a carbon copy of the Creek Nation LLC Act, and I know that because I established an LLC under the Creek Act within the last month, and I got to read the Creek Nation LLC Act and the course of doing that. They're very, very similar. In terms of what else I know about Osage legislation, I was a housing director for many years and wrote policies in that job position, and I shared those policies with an employee of the Osage Housing Department many years ago, and at least as recently as 3 or 4 years ago, those policies were still being used by our housing program. I still recommend that they be used by the tribes and housing programs that I serve. So I would like to think that if I were elected to be a congressperson, that I could be effective at that. Lawyers write laws, they know how to apply laws, and they hone in their skills in interpreting those laws, and I think that would be a good skill set to have in this position. And again, I just hope that you would give me that chance. Thank you.
We have 1 minute for rebuttal, and we'll start with Jozi Talchi.
I just want to say thank you to everybody here tonight for taking an interest in our governance, and thank you for bearing with me. I'm in great pain because I sprained my ankle last night, so if I'm shaky and sweaty, that's all. Other than that,
Angela Pratt.
Can I get you to repeat the question one more time?
Sure.
I'll make sure I'm answering it.
What knowledge of Osage legislation do you bring to the position if elected? Please be specific.
Okay, I was thinking it said, I just want to make sure, no, I've never written Osage legislation. I've never written any legislation. But, so again, I appreciate even Shannon as a congress member stating that, they did start from scratch. But if we're taking a moment to give our experience, I worked for the Drug Enforcement Administration for the past 7 years before coming on with the tribe. And I was in the military for 3 years. So I have years of following law and legislation. Now, legislation and policy and procedure are two different things. So, but I will say I have experience in writing policy and procedure and following the current legislation of our tribe.
Well, again, I'm going to say that question is a little unfair because obviously I've been doing this for 5.5 years, so I have more knowledge of it than someone who hasn't done it. But what's important to know is that it's about anyone can do it. We recently, and I think this is important, we published our laws in books. So if anyone wants to know about Osage legislation, you look in the books. And the books tell you what our legislation says. And it tells you what our laws say. And those books, I am happy to report, are in a lot of places, and anyone can see them. The laws are also on the internet. You can go on the internet. And any citizen can make a suggestion about how to make a law better, or mention that a law is cumbersome, tweak some words, change this. We recently went to California where they were asking us about a gathering law. And what we found is that while people will come to the meeting and sign up, and there needs to be 20 signatures for them to get reimbursement for their places, our law wasn't quite right, so we can change it. Thank you.
It's, again, very important for me I'm a very hands-on person. That's one of my learning strength areas. And when I can pick up policies and procedures and read them, and then it gives me the direction and which path to follow in that area. And again, working with Kashaya Elementary School District, I attended all of the tribal, it was Stewart's Point Rancheria tribal meetings or council meetings, so that we could work together to see how we could best improve the education of those children. So I think it's very important, again, following and learning and doing policies and procedures.
And the final comments for the meeting will come from Amanda Proctor.
Again, I want to respectfully disagree with my friend and colleague, Congresswoman Edwards. I know that she's an experienced legislator and lawyer herself. However, I don't think that this is a learning experience. This is not a job that anyone can do. That the face of tribal government has changed, and this is a multi-million-dollar operation. And a multi-million-dollar operation warrants careful, capable, committed servants. And the decisions that have to be made are the kinds of decisions that call upon that expertise in business and law and economics and policy and strategy and gaming. And I'm not saying that everyone has to, be a lawyer or have a PhD or some kind of advanced degree behind their names, but there certainly has to be some kind of knowledge base upon which to build. Thank you.
That concludes the forum for this evening.